Alright, so back out in the Barracuda, and my first order of business is going to be the steering wheel, because it's messed up and there's not much else I can do with the car until I kind of figure this out, because it's really hard to push and everything like that. And the reason for that is kind of simple, and I don't know exactly how it happened, but it's kind of frustrating. Let's take a look here. So what happened is somebody put a key in there upside down and snapped it off. So in order to move the car around at all, get it on the trailer, get it in my garage, that sort of thing, what I had to do is I had to actually unbolt the frame here, because the steering lock is engaged, because the cylinder is totally locked up and bound. So I gotta see if I can get this out of here. So that's order number one. We're gonna have to do that and take a look at it. But I have a secret weapon. So this is my secret weapon. This is one of the reasons why I'm really fortunate to have gotten the car that I got. And that reason is spare steering column. It also came with a whole bunch of keys. Oh look, a broken one. So that's stuck in there somehow. Now unfortunately enough, the key goes in, but it doesn't turn. So I was thinking that maybe this spare key here, I might have been lucky enough to have gotten a secondary one that might be for this steering column, but I don't think he got a key with this steering column, whoever the guy was. Take a stand. Interesting. I'd love to follow this car a little bit, this history of this car a little bit more. So anyway, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna pop the cylinder out of the old one. I've actually taken cylinders apart. Maybe, just maybe, I can get that thing out of there and use the original cylinder, and we'll see what happens. So looking at the spare steering column here, found some interesting things inside here. It's like some cicada husks or butterfly or something. I don't know. This thing's really rusty. I prefer not to use it if possible. I think what we'll do is, if we can, we'll just use pieces off of the ignition cylinder, but that's only if I can't get the other one opened and fixed. So we'll just see what happens here. That's fine. So once I got the steering wheel off, which was really easy, these 3 bolts here, down inside the column here, and this is different than a lot of other cars that I've dealt with, you can see the bolt holes there and there for a steering wheel puller, something like this. Problem is, this center bolt here, that's really short. I don't think it's gonna go down there. As far as I know, I can't take this piece off. It's all part of this. So that means finding a longer center bolt, as well as longer bolts here for the threaded section. Now luckily enough, I do have these. These are probably perfect, because I already threaded one of those in there, and yeah, that gives me some good distance. Problem is, this center bolt, not even close to the right size for that. So, a lot of other Mopars I've seen, the bolt is right here, right underneath the steering wheel. But on the Cuda, it goes all the way back. So now I've got to figure that out a little bit, and it's going to be interesting. There was also a nut down here in the center that you have to take off too. I already did that, so I kind of didn't show you that, sorry. But I'm going to figure out the length of these bolts for this so that I can get this steering column off. But hopefully, once I get into this, I'll be able to pop that cylinder out. And then at very worst, I'll probably just purchase a new one. So I actually think I know what I'm gonna do. I found this bar in my scrap steel box. And part of the reason why my garage is such a mess is because I don't throw anything away. But this is why I don't. So what I'm probably going to do, we'll just cut this right here, tack weld it so that it doesn't come off, but not too tight so that I can remove it later. And that should do the trick. We'll cut this a little longer than I might expect, because I got a decent amount of distance I can back this off of, so that should be good. Let's go chop it. So this is my Harbor Freight special chop saw. Not the most amazing thing in the world, but you know what? It gets the job done. All right, that looks like good length. Okay, so pulling the steering wheel went great after I got everything done. Took the screws out, got the electrical stuff, and then I realized that down in here we have a snap ring. And so I went to go get my snap ring pliers, and I didn't have this end to it. So I had to go buy a new pair of snap ring pliers. So I went to Lowe's this week, got a new pair of snap ring pliers. You know, so we're going to take that snap ring off, and then finally I think we can get to the ignition. All right, so we got the snap ring off. Put that down there. So now this should just slide off kind of nicely. Maybe not. Not quite sure why this isn't coming off here. It's like pulling the whole steering column with it. So I'm really struggling to get this piece off. I want to be real careful about this rubber gasket that's in here. And I can see ball bearings inside it. I don't know if you can see that or not. It's really tough. Get the camera to send it on the right thing, but I see ball bearings inside there. But it doesn't want to come off at all. Like, it doesn't want to slide up off. I've got the snap ring off. If I pull on it, it extends the whole steering column, comes forward a little bit. So there's a gap here. But getting this intermediate column section off is proving to be quite difficult. Time for a little research, I'm thinking. See what we can figure out here. So I got out my handy dandy restoration guide. Bought this, I don't know how many years ago. Great book. Taking a look at this. So I was right. This is the bearing housing that I'm having problems with here. And if we go over here, see, I've got a bearing and I've got an insulator. That's that rubber seal that I was trying to be careful of. I'm guessing I have to get those two out first. It looks like there's another snap ring on the other side, which makes sense then why when I'm pulling from the back of this, the whole thing's not coming out. Because we've got a pin, snap ring, and some sort of a metal sleeve, I'm betting. So I got this snap ring out, so I got to take these two off here. So I guess I'm going to have to go for this insulator and just hope that I can get it out of there without damaging it. So I found a website on restoring these steering columns, and it says just to pull it out. but it doesn't really say anything about taking this out. So I just got to imagine that it just comes out, and this thing is being super stubborn. So I'm going to just go with both hands, and we're going to try. I know that there's like a star pattern plate back here. I forget what that thing is called. That I can't get rid of right now because there's another snap ring that's actually hidden behind this here. So I'm going to have to get this off somehow. Trying not to tear this rubber gasket, this insulator as they call it, and it's being really difficult. I've got several screwdrivers. I tried my little Craftsman dental tool thingamajiggies here. That didn't work so well. I even have like a special screwdriver that I made just for carburetors. It's real thin. I just ground down a nice thin screwdriver. No dice. So I'm just gonna try some more. Well, when in doubt, pull harder, right? So I'm just gonna try some more physical stuff, and we'll see what I can do. Might even get my screwdriver in behind here against that plate and try and push it forward that way. Just use some leverage. So we'll see. Got to put the camera down though. Don't have anywhere I can really put it right now. So, which is probably good because if I screw this up, I don't want to have it on camera. so yeah. We'll once I figure this out, I'll let you know how I did it. All right, finally some success. And I'm really glad I didn't go tearing at this rubber seal too much because it actually goes around the whole, it actually goes around the whole bearing there. So if I had really tried to get that off, I would have just torn it to crap. So I'm really glad I didn't do that. And now the bearing housing will come off nice and easily. One of the things you got to do is make sure you unplug the wiring harness here. And I got some wires I got to take care of over here that seem like they're stripped. But anyway, so now I'm going to be able to get this off here. I'm just going to let this dangle. How I actually did it was I wedged a screwdriver in here like this. And I got it down in here, and I would pry it forward little bits at a time all the way around. And finally got this bearing forward enough that it actually just came loose off of the shaft. So yeah, I have yet to see a video that talks about how that works, but that's essentially what I did. Is I just took a nice big fat screwdriver, wedged it here right up against this bladed part here and the back of this housing here, which was sitting there like this, and then I just pried both ways. But I think pushing the I pried both ways, but I think pushing the tip this way was actually what got that bearing to get pushed out even more. So now what we've got here is we've got this snap ring here that I'm going to have to take care of, and then we can get this off. There's like a kind of a bushing of some sort on the metal bushing on the top of this that I've saw in another video that I was looking at. So I'll have to take that off, and then this snap ring right here, we'll get rid of that, and then we should be able to take this off. And now, once we get rid of this, then we'll have access to the ignition cylinder here, or the lock cylinder, and we can pop that out, and let's see if we can get that key out today. That would be an awesome afternoon. This, if you see here, there's a little line here. This is a collar that comes off, and there's actually a screw underneath this, right where that indent is, at least based on the photographs that I've seen. So I got to get this off. So I'm going to go put a screwdriver in here, kind of whack it with a hammer, and then see if I can pop this off, and then get to the screw that's underneath that. So I can't just pull this off. I can't just pry this off. This collar's got to come off, and then there's a screw that goes in there that keeps it on. Okay, so I got a good little tip here for you on this. When I was looking at this, I noticed that there's a decent gap along most of this, but then up at the top it would have been hammered down flat. So I'm assuming that they'll probably want me to do when I reinstall this. So I just took a nice, really thin little screwdriver like this one here, and with a small hammer, I didn't want to do any damage, I just kind of hammered it in, and it opened it up a little bit, and now this has gotten a lot looser, and I'm able to get this collar off really easily. So it didn't want to come off at first, but once I opened up that gap, I was able to do so pretty easily. And it's really hard to hold a camera while you're doing this stuff. I either look at the camera or I look at the screwdriver, and either one doesn't end up, if I look at one, the other one doesn't do much. So there we go, got that off. And sure enough, oh, it's not a screw, it's a pin. Oh, that's interesting. On one photograph I saw it was a screw. Okay, well, we'll just have to drive that out. Well, that shouldn't be too big of a deal, but a screw would have been nicer. Anyway, all right, let me hammer this out. Go find a rod or something that's the right diameter, and we'll hammer this out, and then we should be able to get this plate off, and then we'll have access to our ignition cylinder. All right, so I got the pin out. Actually had to use an Allen key that ended up being the same size. Where'd that sucker go? Here it is. Worked out really well, actually. Just right through there. So now this should come off. And now, finally, I now have access to my ignition cylinder here. So I'll take these two screws off here, pop this sucker out, and then we'll just pray that somehow I can get the key out from the center of the ignition. I'm actually figuring my chances might be 50-50 at best. Yeah. But if not, then I order a new ignition cylinder, and yeah, that's that. We just go with a new one. Alright, so that plate came off really easily. And now, I'm pretty sure all I gotta do is press this pin in the lock cylinder. Look at that. It's gonna come right out and fall through the hole in the floor. So now I can pop that out. Let's go take a look and see what we can see with this lock cylinder and see if it's even worth looking at. So now I'm taking a look at this thing. It's kind of hard to see in the shade here. Maybe in the shadows, maybe. I don't know. Really difficult to see. You can see the piece of key that's in there. And this thing is pretty much a one-piece unit. Well, I'll give it a couple closer looks here, but I'm thinking it really got beat up here. Looks like somebody was really trying to get this thing started or get the key out of there. I think that's probably how I ended up with the car. Key got snapped off in the ignition. They couldn't figure it out. Didn't want to take the steering column apart. Decided they were done with the car and then sold it. So we'll see what we do, and if we have to spend $60 on this lock cylinder, we spend $60 on a lock cylinder. Not a big deal.